All right, so here we are at the engagement series. So again, I always want you to look at these things and remember it in the context of the machine at large. We're never looking at any of these particular series in isolation, although they would work in isolation. If you just said, hey, I only want to do one of these things, it would be better than doing none of it. But the machine is most powerful when you do everything. So as a matter of just really quick review, remember that this is how the machine works. You've got leads coming in to the top. Now, you know, after going through the core strategy session, that the mechanism that gets them in here is what? It's two things. It's a lead magnet, that's important, on a landing page, right? It's a lead magnet on a landing page. That's the thing that ultimately brings them in. So they come in, if it is a brand spanking new lead, they're going to get your indoctrination series while simultaneously getting the engagement series that is tied to this particular lead magnet. All right, we're going to talk more about that in just a second. So the lead comes in, they're getting the engagement series, same time as the indoctrination series, which we talked about in the previous module. That simultaneous messaging thing is going on. If it's not a new lead, if there's somebody who's already on your list, but they're just responding to a new lead magnet, a new offer, then they're going to just get the engagement series. They've already been indoctrinated, right? So here they are, they're in the engagement series. The role of an engagement series is to take somebody who is a prospect, who has raised their hand and said, yep, I'm interested in this particular subject, I'm interested in this particular topic, I'm interested in whatever the heck it is that you're talking about right now. It's to take that person and turn them into a buyer, right? So if that works, if the engagement series does its job, then the lead that comes in buys. They take that next step and they give you money, right? And that's called business. That's what we want to have happen. So they go and purchase. Then when that happens, immediately following the purchase, they go through in that ascension series. Remember, in the role of an ascension series is to ascend them from a buyer into a multi-buyer. So it says, great, you just bought this thing. Now you'd really be interested in this, right? So that's when we get, remember the value loop, right, that we talked about? So the Ascension series get them to come back, buy again, and then they go back into another series, then they go back into another Ascension series, and hopefully they're just going around and around and around in this value loop. Obviously, this can't go on forever. At some point, either you're going to run out of products, you're going to run out of stuff to talk about, or they're just going to say, okay, I'm full, right? I'm good. I appreciate you. I love what you're doing for me, but I'm out for now. Right? So if that happens, or if the engagement series it doesn't work for that particular person. Yeah, they raised their hand and they said, okay, I'm interested, but they just weren't interested enough. They just weren't ready enough to take that next step and become a buyer. In either way, they're going to come down into your segmentation bucket. This is your general broadcast list, right? This is where you're going to be communicating with folks on a regular basis. And, you know, this is what we talked about in the free training series that led to you becoming a member of this coaching program. You know, and we talked about the 3-part series that we're going to send out, and the role of the engagement series is to get them to go back into another engagement series. So that's how this process works, right? Get them to go back into another engagement series. Hopefully they buy, hopefully they ascend, hopefully the value loops get created. Now, if the segmentation isn't working, if people aren't opening your emails, if they're not clicking on your offers, if they're not engaging with anything that you have to talk about for more than 60 days, they're going to drop into a re-engagement series. If that does its job, they'll be put back into the segmentation bucket, or they'll be put into a new engagement series, depending on how your re-engagement series is structured. If that still doesn't work, if they still don't re-engage, now they're in your bucket, they're moved off of your list, they're moved on to a different list, they're treated differently, and that's that. So this is the machine. Hopefully you didn't learn anything new there, right? So where we are right now is here. So you are here in the engagement series. You've already learned about the indoctrination series, but it's in the engagement series, like I just talked about in the previous video, where you're actually going to be able to make some money. This is where we're going to be moving them down that path. Now, it's important to remember, and a lot of people ask, okay, how do folks get on this engagement series? And it can happen a couple of ways. Number one, like I just said, the people who are already on your list, well, they're going to get on an engagement series because of a promotional campaign, a segmentation series that you sent out. So they can get into an engagement series by you mailing your current list and saying, check out this lead magnet that's on this landing page. That's one way that they can get onto a particular engagement series. They can also come and opt in to receive a lead magnet, or come to your landing page as a result of affiliate traffic, or any type of paid media, or organic traffic, right? That's where, if it's a brand new lead because they've come from an outside source, other than your own list, that's when they're going to hit that indoctrination series. But really, this engagement series, that's the first place. That's the first thing that's going to happen. So this kind of creates an interesting little chicken and egg dynamic, right? What should you create first? What should you focus on first? Should you first focus on the segmentation series and what promotions that you're going to send to your list? Or should you focus on the engagement series first? Now, the reason that I'm having you focus on the engagement series first is that I want you to have this in place, and I want you to have the indoctrination series in place, so that when you do have your own list, even if you do currently have your own list, I want you to have these things in place so that when you mail out to that list, you're ready for them. All too often, even those of us who have lists, if we don't have these little machines set up, we mail out to our list and they either buy or they don't, and that's kind of that, right? I want you to have this engagement series in place, and as soon as you got this in place, then we're going to talk about segmentation series, segmentation promos. The other thing that I want to mention, that I want to bring up again, is this concept of simultaneous messaging. It's come up a bunch of times. It's a theme kind of throughout this training of when is it okay to send the same subscriber multiple emails on the same day. So remember, since we're still talking about the engagement series, if somebody does come into your machine, if they do opt in to one of your landing pages to receive one of your lead magnets, and they're a brand new subscriber, they're going to be receiving your indoctrination series and they're going to be receiving your engagement series at the same time. But as you learned before, this indoctrination series really shouldn't be any more than 3 days. So that's the first instance of simultaneous messaging. The other instance of simultaneous messaging that can occur for people who are on an engagement list, because remember, when people are on one of these engagement lists, you're not going to be broadcasting them anything that you would send to your list at large. They're not going to receive any of the mails down here. So if they're in an engagement series, you're not sending them broadcasts. You're not sending them emails. They're in this series, you leave them alone and you let them go through the series, with one exception other than the indoctrination, and that is when you're sending content. Okay? We're going to talk more about this when we get into the segmentation series, but you should be mailing your list a pure content mail. One that, it doesn't mean that you don't have an advertisement in it, but it is content focused, where you're just giving to them. You should be doing that at least once a week. At Digital Marketer, we actually do it twice a week. We do it on Wednesdays and we do it on Fridays. But at a bare minimum of once a week, you should be sending them a newsletter. You should be saying, hey, here's what we posted to the blog this week. Or here's a link to a podcast, something, anything. Just give them some content. Give them a reason to actually be on your list other than, hey, you're on my list so I can mail and ask you for money, right? That's the only other exception where you'll go ahead and when you send that content, when you broadcast that content, you'll also broadcast it to the engagement list. Because why not? It's not going to distract them. It's going to show them value. And worst case scenario, they get 2 emails from you. And one of them is talking about something they've already raised their hand and said, yep, I'm interested. And the other is just pure content and really, really, really great stuff. So again, I realize that all this is review. That's the point. I just want to remind you of where you are, where we are right now in the context of the machine. So now that you realize that this is where we are and that's how it fits in, let's go to the next video.